Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and we are thankful for every single set of eyes that is on us right now. Thank you so much. You are the reason why we continue doing what we're doing, and we want to bring you to fantasy glory so you can be thankful for some fantasy glory on Thanksgiving. And the way that we do that is by using the Fantasy Football by Broto app. It is the only app you need to dominate fantasy football and become your own expert, especially at times like this. Let me tell you something. Me and Michael, we know what we're talking about, but we're not perfect. And these other analysts out here, they spend a lot of time, they crunch a lot of numbers, but they're not perfect. A lot of them don't know what they're talking about. So you rely on yourself. And every stat you need to be an expert is in this app. That's the whole point of that we made the app. And plus, all of our content. On top of that, the reason why it's even available is because of our patrons over at patreon.com/BrotoFantasy. If you want the rest of this episode and so much more, especially down this home stretch, please consider going to patreon.com/BrotoFantasy and contributing to the show, to the brand, and to the future of everything, and to your fantasy success. And with that, I say cheers. Let's do it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Broto Fantasy Football Podcast presented by BrotoFantasy.com and the Fantasy Football by Broto app, the only tool you need to dominate fantasy football.
There is no tradition like Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving because it's the F's that you need. It's the F's. F number one, family. And that's why I'm introducing you to my family right here. Mike Petrop, what's good, bro?
What up, Pam?
F number two, of course, football. And that's why we're here. The Fantasy Football by Broto podcast. No, the Broto Fantasy podcast. It's all jumbled up at this point. And number three, of course, is the food. So, Michael, we're going to start off. We usually end every episode with a food question. We're going to start off this one with a food question. Michael and I just went to a Friendsgiving last weekend, which was wonderful. It was the first Friendsgiving with the kids there. So it was like the new generation of Friendsgiving all there. So very cool. Kind of everyone, like not everyone, but like at least three different couples at the party were like all celebrating kind of like the next chapter of life. And we're also with a bunch of friends doing what we usually do. And everyone brought something. And I got to say, everyone brought their A game and everything was slamming, including Michael's bomb stuffing. If you guys don't know, Michael makes bomb stuffing. So with that being said, Michael, what is your favorite like Thanksgiving dish?
Yeah. Shout out to, like Tim said, that Friendsgiving meal. While we were eating, I said out loud to like 20 people, I feel bad for everyone else in the world not eating this food.
That's such a Michael thing to say. I miss that.
It was so good. But favorite Thanksgiving. I think I'm a big fan of the bite when you have turkey, cranberry, and stuffing all in one bite.
That's a little bit of a cheat, but I'm gonna take that. What
That's
else?
like the only time you could do it, right? Because you could have turkey not in Thanksgiving.
That's true. But I don't know if you like. Do a lot of people roast the turkey? I feel like turkeys are like produced for cold cuts. Like, how many people do you know? Like, yeah, I'm gonna go home and roast a turkey.
Not many.
Or like, I'm gonna make a turkey soup. I feel like everyone either eats ground turkey or they eat like cold cut turkey, or they eat Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Otherwise, what's like a specific?
Well, you got the classics. You got the yams, right? You got the turkey. You got the.
I'm a fan of the yams.
All right, Michael. Come on, man. Give us something more than I like a combo bite. Mine's mac and cheese. How about that? I'm lactose
I'll go mashed
intolerant.
Potatoes then.
There you go. I'm lactose intolerant, but I love me some mac and cheese. I had some mac and cheese over that. Lizzie. Yeah. Shout out to Lizzie. She made some bomb mac and cheese. I'm so happy that I took some pills beforehand and ate some. Although, Michael, I'm sad to say,
lactose pills.
Yeah, yes. They're not even lactose pills. They're like they're a digestive enhancer. It's a digestive like enhancer. It's like they're enzymes, digestive enzymes. So it like fortifies, like it helps it break down shit that like more of the stuff that digests things is going in there. So I'm supposed to take 2 and I take 4, and usually I'm fine when I do that. Although because 2 isn't working. I'm gonna need to take some digestive enzymes for this Thanksgiving slate because it's gonna be fun, football, family, um, and of course friends and everything else. So, Mike, anyone doing a turkey bowl? Are you doing a turkey bowl this year? Are you guys playing on Sunday? You guys are playing on Sunday.
No,
No turkey bowl. You guys aren't playing on Sunday either.
no,
No.
no more.
My you see how depressed Michael is right now. If you're watching on youtube.com/Broto Fantasy, the team we play on, where I took the year off because I got a left ankle issue right now that I'm trying to work out. But Michael definitely did not take the year off, and they were raging into the playoffs. They won their first playoff game and then lost this weekend to get eliminated from the playoffs in the second round. I think this is like our third straight year of getting eliminated in the second round after winning a championship.
That's lame. But our QB, man, he missed his flight. We had to play short.
That's right.
Not ideal.
Jason played QB. It was a valiant effort, but he's a lawyer now. All right. So where are we? Yeah, we're gonna have this segment. This segment is a special Thanksgiving segment. Michael wanted to name it. What was your name of it? Turkey or treat?
Trust or turkey?
Trust or turkey. Basically, it's the fringe guys of the week. Like, not even the fringe guys, but like, where would you rank these guys on Thursday? Because I feel like one of the hardest things, and Friday, by the way, we're gonna add the Friday game in there, the Jets and the Dolphins. Everyone gets to watch Tim Boyle on primetime. Yay! But when you look at these Thursday games and when you look at Thanksgiving, one of the hardest decisions to make is who do I play? Because, the injury reports aren't out yet. Like, we're not even doing news because there's just no point of doing news on a Wednesday. So, like, you don't know who's going to play. You don't know who you're going to take a chance on. So, we want to highlight some guys that maybe you could play, maybe you could sit. I know there's a bunch of Green Bay Packers that I'd like to talk about. So let's get right into it, Michael. Let's go to our first matchup here. Our first, what is it again?
Trust or turkey?
Trust or turkey. So Geno Smith limited this week.
He is expected to play now.
But expected to play, which is important to note because even with Geno Smith, it's been a little bit of a tough ride for these Seahawks wide receivers. So a guy like JSN, let's focus on, but also both other receivers if you ended up getting a better option. Are you playing these Seahawks receivers? Oh, down goes Mike. Are you playing these Seahawks receivers this week? If not, even if Geno doesn't play?
It looks like Geno's gonna give it a go. I mean, which is a good thing. He's better than Drew Lock. You can't really say otherwise. But look, the guy I like the most here is someone who's been very mediocre all season, but he has been a lot better the last two games. And that's DK Metcalf of the wide receiver options.
Interesting.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that he has 21 targets over the last 2 weeks, but he surpassed 90 yards in each of those games. Scored a touchdown this past week. The first time he ended as a top 20 receiver was in week 10. And then he followed that up with first time ending as a top 10 receiver in week 11 against the Rams, which is a difficult matchup on paper. It seems like Geno Smith is leaning on DK Metcalf more, which I mean makes sense when you have an athletic freak like DK Metcalf. You kind of see how Jalen Hurts decided he was just going to start throwing to AJ Brown a lot because when you throw to players like that, good things tend to happen. And then you have the like Tyler Lockett has always been the volatile guy, and I think the last couple of years he's been more steady, and then this year it's just been right back to wild peaks and valleys. I mean, he went from wide receiver 22 to wide receiver 50, wide receiver 12, wide receiver 53, wide receiver 8, wide receiver 36. That's what you get with Tyler Lockett. The San Francisco 49ers, like they can be passed on, but like the issue is, will the offensive line be able to block Nick Bosa and company and give them time to throw downfield? I don't think this is a great game for JSN because JSN, he's not a high target guy per se. He gets a decent amount of targets. He's averaging 6 targets per game over the last 3. But against the San Francisco 49ers, I do think this is more of a Metcalf and Lockett game where you go to the wide receivers you trust rather than the young rookie. The only way I see JSN making a big play is if it's like a quick pass close to the line of scrimmage, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you see going on with JSN recently is, like you said, the targets are going up, 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 and up. And when you see a situation like, and I know the Niners can be scored on. The Niners, the ninth best matchup rank, and that's 3 spots better than they were 3 weeks ago. Even the quarterback, they got 12 spots worse overall. So they're the 18th matchup, so that's up 12 spots. One of the things about the 49ers, they've been able to get scored on by the wide receiver, and they just lost their second team all-pro safety that's out for the season. So that's a big loss for an already weak secondary. The problem is that, when the targets are split out 9, 6, 7, and I know Metcalf got a bunch of targets 2 weeks ago, 12 targets, Tyler Lockett 10 targets, but JSN still got 5 targets in that game. The week before, Tyler Lockett 8, DK Metcalf 4, JSN 7. And it's just like, this is not a high-powered offense so far, and Geno has not played to the best of his ability. On top of that, his right arm is hurt, and they might be in a game where they're going to get boat raced. And if they do get boat raced, I don't, you got a hurt franchise quarterback. How long does he play in the game? It's hard for me to trust these options, even in what looks like kind of a little bit of a better matchup. These are the type of guys where particularly Lockett and JSN. Like, if I could wait on someone of at least some sort of caliber, let me go to my ranking so I can get some like examples. Cortland Sutton, Chris Godwin, OBJ. I would almost take a chance on guys like that. Rashid Shaheed. I would almost rather take a chance on guys like that than
I'm not
even
starting
Tyler
Rashid
Lockett.
Shaheed over Tyler Lockett. It's wild.
It
The
sounds
49ers
wild,
can
but
be beat through the air, man.
yes, but
As long as you have the time to throw it.
the thing is, he's been so up and down, and right now you need wins, man. Like, this is the type of, I mean, if you're in first place and you're or second place, and you got a comfortable lead, then yeah, I have no problem playing Tyler Lockett. Play him in your wide receiver 3, play him in your flex, have at it, because he might blow up and win a week for your team, and maybe your team's good enough to withstand the blow of him having a down game. But if you have to win this week, if you have to, it's hard for me to put Tyler Lockett in my lineup this week if I need a win.
I don't know. I mean, San Fran's top 10 in true matchup rank for opposing wide receivers. If they have time to throw, they'll be all right. Like, I don't love him this week, but I'm not just sitting him.
I don't know, man. I don't know. All right. Let's get into our next one here. Number 2, with the list just closed. That's why I am stalling professionally.
Tim, you can look at the screen.
Oh, there you go. Oh, look at that. Michael, ready. Sam Howell versus Dallas. All right, Michael. So here's the deal. Dallas scores on average 40 points a game at home. The over-under in this game is over 50. Sam Howell on the year, QB4. He's going to have to throw. Someone in this game is going to have to throw 50 times. And I don't see them taking out Sam Howell anytime soon. Might he throw 3 interceptions? Sure. Might he get sacked 7, 8 times? Maybe. He's been better with the sacks lately. But this Dallas defense is legitimate, but that's not stopping me from playing Sam Howell. I right now I have Sam Howell ranked as QB 14, so not exactly like in I would start him, definitely no matter what kind of scenario. But I do see him as a starter if your waiver wire is thin. And, streaming quarterbacks is way harder these days because for whatever reason, quarterbacks suck. And for whatever other reason, people have started to like carrying backup quarterbacks in their roster. I've noticed in my leagues. But anyway, if you're like that and you're looking at a situation like, oh, I could start Sam Howell, or, I could start Jordan Love, or I could start Russell Wilson, or I could start, even Geno Smith, or, Baker. I'm not shying away from Sam Howell in that situation. I think that he's in a good spot because his team is going to give up so many yards. Like, you saw Tommy DeVito go absolutely – he threw 3 touchdowns last week. Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
Like, we saw Tommy DeVito against the Jets look like a high school quarterback. And maybe he's just, getting a little more confident and all that. But to go from that big of a leap, and this is something that's been happening to this team all year. They have not been a great defense, and they've only gotten worse since they traded their two best pass rushers that have extreme success against the pass. So as I bring up their true matchup rankings, just to put the icing on the cake, I think this is a good matchup, and I think that you should not be scared of playing your Washington Commanders. I'm sorry, playing Sam Howell. Yeah, I just don't think there's any reason to be even a little bit nervous about that situation, even though the Cowboys are not a great matchup.
Well, I do think there's some reason to be nervous about it. They're like top 5 in true matchup rank, and we've seen Sam Howell, like that game against Buffalo, just really shit the bed. But overall, he's been pretty great. I also have him at QB14. I'm playing him. Like you said, they're going to have to throw a shit ton against Dallas to keep up. More than likely, huge over-under in Vegas. So, yeah, I think Sam Howell's certainly a fine start right now. He's not even a streamer anymore. I mean, the guy's QB4 on the year. He's been a locked and loaded starter since like week 5.
First in the NFL in attempts, first in the NFL in completions, first in interceptions, but third in big plays. And QB5 in points per game. Like
First in passing yards too, no?
Yeah, first in passing yards. No, first in passing yards. 18 passing TDs. This guy's doing it, man. And on top of that, he has 2 rushing TDs. I just don't see a scenario where he could throw 5 interceptions and still have a great fantasy game. He could.
5 would be a lot.
Well, that's you. If you're playing in a standard league where it's -1, that's taking away not even a touchdown. If he throws for 3 touchdowns, it's just like he threw for 2 touchdowns. And if he runs for 1, bada boom. I don't know. I'm not scared to play Sam Howell this week. All right, let's get into our next one. Michael hit it. This is an interesting one because the Green Bay Packers have had a little bit of a resurgence the last 2 weeks. We've seen some great wide receiver outcomes. We've seen a great running back outcome. We've seen great quarterback outcomes out of this offense. Maybe there's a chance Jordan Love is getting a little better and catching on a little bit. And, this happens. We live in a society that doesn't like to wait for things. But if you remember, Aaron Rodgers sucked his rookie season too. Of course, when I say rookie season, I mean his rookie season on the field, his 4th year overall. So kind of in the same situation. Yeah, this has been, he's in the same situation as Jordan Love. So how are you feeling about these weapons right now? To be of noted, which is very important, Dontavian Wicks.
Noted.
Did I say that? To be noted, Dontavian Wicks not playing, it looks like, in this game. And Luke Musgrave is definitely not playing in this game. He is on the IR. So he's going to miss at least 4 weeks, which sucks because he was a kind of an up-and-coming riser. Although our motto of never trusting rookie tight ends is looking pretty good because Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta have fell off the face of the earth as of late.
Fall off the face of the earth is a wild statement.
Laporta has, not for Kincaid. Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't lump them two together. Although they're basically twins. They have like the same height, the same weight. They're the same. They're just like twins of like carbon copies of each other. Like they're like Michael and Jason. With that being said, where were we? Oh, yeah, Green Bay weapons. How do you feel about them against a Detroit defense that's actually been pretty good? Now, they shine against the pass. That should be noted, but they're overall a lot better. Against the running back, they're almost impossible to run on, but they are exactly league average, 16th matchup rank against wide receivers, and 14th against the quarterback, allowing 16.2 points to the quarterback and 24.6 points to wide receivers overall. So they've been a stingy defense overall. How are you feeling about this matchup for the Packers?
Yeah, there's one wide receiver I like here. I guess a sneak peek into the rankings preview. I have him like 9 spots out of consensus. Jaden Reed. He's been awesome for Green Bay of late. 4 of his last 5 games, he's been a top 36 wide receiver. He scored a touchdown in 3 of those 5 games. He scored a touchdown or put up 80 yards in 4 of those 5 games. He set he set a career high in rushing yards and attempts last week. 3 rush attempts for 46 rushing yards, scored a touchdown on it. So if that's another wrinkle they're adding into the game with Jaden Reed, especially with Aaron Jones injured, that could certainly be something that helps his fantasy output as well, even if it's 22 rushing yards. It's an additional 2 points. 6 targets this past week as well. Detroit, like you said, it's not a tremendous matchup, certainly not a bad matchup by any means either. So Jaden Reed is someone I'm targeting here, and he's my favorite of the bunch when we're looking at these Green Bay Packers wide receivers.
I agree with you. I think he's a good play. I think the consolidation of targets is going to be there. So I think Jaden Reed could be a good play against Detroit. I like Romeo Doubs, man. I have him in my main league. I'm breathing down Michael's neck right now. Looking, I need to catch him for a playoff spot, and I need to win next week. And I'm considering playing Romeo Doubs in my flex spot.
I hate that either.
Yeah, I think that when you look at this guy, he's the touchdown guy on the team, and when he scores a touchdown, he plays well. Wide receiver 16 last week, wide receiver 30, only 30 yards with a touchdown. Now we had 2 dud weeks before that, but wide receiver 33, wide receiver 10, wide receiver 17, and wide receiver 13 at different points in the season. The problem is when he doesn't catch a touchdown, wide receiver 83, wide receiver 101, 38, 50. So he's hard to trust, but I also know that when he's been in a situation where the other weapons around him have been injured, his targets have gone up in those games. Like the last time he played Detroit, dude had 13 targets, 95 yards. And that's because, Christian Watson wasn't on the field. And I also believe another receiver was missing. Maybe Reed, maybe Wicks, one of those two. But, Watson's going to be on the field for this one, but Wicks is not going to be on the field. Musgrave's not going to be on the field, especially Musgrave, who is, his competition for targets in the end zone. I think Romeo Doubs is a sneaky play in this game. I think that if you're making a DFS lineup, I think that, I wouldn't be mad at you if you decided to put Romeo Doubs in that DFS lineup, especially because he's probably going to be pretty cheap. So you can get him for that. And I think Jordan Love is, maybe a sneaky play. Last week, QB9. He hasn't finished below QB 15 in 3 of the last 7 weeks. So, I mean, you don't want QB 15 on your team. Like, he's scoring 15 points. Like, you don't want that on your team. But he's not going to zip you. And he's been looking up 16 points and 20 points, 21 points. Well, 17 and 21 points if you round up in the last few games. So, not bad outputs for Jordan Love. If I don't have any other options, if I'm in a real tough spot, and I would rather stream other guys for sure. Like I'd rather stream like a guy I was talking about, Sam Howell, Baker Mayfield. If you have the opportunity to at this point, Jared Goff, although I don't know why you would do that. But I think that I'm going to, Jordan Love, Gardner Minshew, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr. Of those guys, man, I think I'm going to go Jordan Love of those guys. How do you feel about Jordan Love?
I don't hate it. I just don't really. I'm not a big fan of Jordan Love. I think has a limited ceiling here. But I do think if like Detroit takes a big lead, they're certainly going to have to pass, which always helps for fantasy purposes. I did want to say for Christian Watson, since we didn't mention him, he has the least amount of targets, receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns among the 3 wide receivers over the last 3 weeks. He's basically touchdown or bust. I'm not a huge fan of Christian Watson this week. I definitely prefer both Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs.
He's just become it's hard, like a very, very hard to trust guy.
Yeah.
The Packers on the other side have been a much harder matchup of late. They were running back gold early in the season. Now they're the 14th best matchup according to True Matchup Rankings. That's 9% over average. They're particularly vulnerable on the ground, 25% over average on the ground. That's the 7th best matchup, but have moved up 7 spots in terms of ranking. Like they were the 7th best matchup rank, and now they're the 14th best matchup rank. So they have been taking care of business over the past few weeks. But there are 2 running backs that seem to be rather unstoppable for the Lions this year. And that's David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs has been the wide receiver 1 since week 7. Running back 1 since week 7. David Montgomery. Last week, they they were basically a tandem. Montgomery, 12 carries, 2 targets. Jahmyr Gibbs, 6 targets, 8 carries. They both had an opportunity to touch the ball. They both did well with those opportunities. If you had to start one in this game, who are you starting? And are you how confident? Basically, how confident in them overall are you in general? I want to hear your perspective, not just for this game, yes, for this game, but also like rest of season. Like, who's the back in Detroit to roster?
Yeah, I mean both. I mean the entire offense over the last couple of weeks since David Montgomery returned has been Gibbs, Demont, and Amon-Ra. That's it. Like even Sam Laporta, like you mentioned, has kind of fallen out of favor during that time because they've just been putting up massive points with Demont, Gibbs, and Amon-Ra doing everything. And I'm still partial to David Montgomery because he gets all the red zone work and the touchdowns compared to Jahmyr Gibbs, where you got to rely on big plays, rushing, or something happening in the pass catching game. So like right now they're RB6 and RB18, Gibbs and Montgomery, excuse me, and RB14 in expert consensus ranking. I have them closer than that. I think David Montgomery is. I still, if I was choosing straight up right now, I'd be choosing David Montgomery in
Hmm.
half PPR leagues. In PPR, I'd give Jahmyr Gibbs the nod, but I still think David Montgomery is the slightly better play.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I think that right now I can't see a world where Jahmyr Gibbs becomes not part of this offense like he was in the beginning of the game. It's clear that when he touches the ball, he's electric, and it's
Yeah.
clear that he has special ability in the passing game.
I mean, you're
Um,
starting both no matter what. So right,
yeah,
like
right. Um, so I mean, I think I'd prefer Jahmyr Gibbs over David Montgomery the rest of the season. And one of the things I'm excited, I really want to focus on in this game is Jameson Williams, because if like I don't know what's his roster percentage right now. Do you even know Jameson Williams roster percentage? Like no
I
one's
could
really
check.
talking about Jameson Williams. No one he hasn't done anything. He's been in the doghouse kind of all year, Jameson Williams. And I'm trying to find him even
Scored a
right now.
touchdown last week.
But
It
he
was
did score a
22%.
touchdown on a big
22%
play.
rostered in Yahoo leagues.
22% roster in Yahoo leagues. He scored a touchdown on a big play. And you know, his coach has been saying the right things about him. His coach has been saying like he's one of the guys now, and he's finally practicing hard, and he's finally working hard, and that is a huge void in Detroit, man. That is a huge, huge void in Detroit. Someone on the outside that can make plays, and if you can add someone like that to this team, sky's the limit for this offense because you have that dynamic pass catching back out of the backfield. You got the bruiser and David Montgomery, who's been running. He's been the best running back of his career right now with this team, which is this offensive line
Yeah.
is probably a big help for that, but also because he's looked good on his own. And you got Amon-Ra, who's like literally the best possession receiver in the game right now. I don't think there's anyone even close. I wouldn't say no one even close, but like he's the best guy in the game right now, especially because Cooper Kupp keeps getting injured. So if they can add that element to the team and to your fantasy lineups, I think Jameson Williams is worth a little stash if you have the room. I know we're not stashing at this point right now, but if Luke Musgrave just got hurt and you got to drop him, or you have Quentin Johnson, which by the way sucks. Quentin Johnston sucks.
He's
Yeah,
not very good, yeah.
yeah, he sucks. Call that one. Anyway, if you have a guy like that, swap him for Jameson Williams. Just see what's happening. Just to see
What's
what's happening.
happening? What's happening?
I started Jameson Williams in a league last week. Michael, I gotta tell you, this fantasy season has been ridiculously unpredictable to the point
That it
where
has.
this is where I'm at. 2 weeks ago, I have 10 teams that I keep track of religiously. I went 10-2. I mean, sorry, 8-2. No, I have 10 teams. I went 10-2. Yes, because I played 2 against the median, right? This week I went 1-11.
Let's go. We got that dub.
And the one win was in my rebuilding dynasty league. So I lost all my games technically.
Good work, kid.
What happened? My home league team put up 134 last week and put up 85 this week.
Yeah, I lost in the home league by 10 points because Devin Achane and Ken Walker played like 4 snaps each before they got injured and left the game.
The injury during the game is always the worst. 2 injuries during the game, that one's just it just seems mean.
Especially from 2 guys who are supposed to be 2 of my best players.
Um, right into the next segment, just clean because Ken Walker is out, which means Zach Charbonnet enters this game as the main back in this
Yeah.
on this team. You saw him get used in, but he had his role on this team and he wasn't going anywhere. And he faces quite the opponent in the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers, in terms of true matchup ranks for the running back, are about halfway, 19th best matchup. That's up from that's 3 spots up, so hasn't been as good against the run, the 49ers, but historically a great team against the run, against a rookie running back in a game that could feature a lot of passing. All right, Mike, how are you feeling about Zach Charbonnet? Charbonnet has shown some chops in the passing game, by the way, I should mention. And the 49ers have been particularly vulnerable to the running back out of the backfield. That's really what's affecting their overall numbers because they are the 24th matchup against the rush. So against the rush, historically, they're still great, just like they always have been. But against the pass catcher, 54% over average. That's the 4th best matchup rank, and that's why you need to download the Fantasy Football by Broto app. We separate that for you so you can see what's up. And Zach Charbonnet has shown some chops. So how are you feeling about Zach Charbonnet? And then I have a very interesting start-sit question for you to really gauge where you're at with Charbonnet.
Cool. Look, Zach Charbonnet, I think I say this pretty often. I think people look into matchups too much sometimes and not just the player or the role. Zach Charbonnet right now, expert consensus ranking is RB26, which is just stupid. Ranking Zach Charbonnet outside the top 24 running backs because he gets the 49ers is dumb. This guy had 6 targets last week, 6 receptions, 5 targets the week before when Ken Walker was active. Like, it's 11 targets over the last 2 weeks. He was basically a workhorse once Ken Walker went down last week. 15 rush attempts. So that's over 20 opportunities in the game. I know it's a difficult matchup against San Fran, but the guy's going to get 20 plus touches or 20 plus opportunities at the very least. That alone means he's a playable RB2. I have him at RB20. So, yeah, I'm playing Zach Charbonnet more than likely if I have him.
I like Zach Charbonnet a little bit this week. I have him at RB25. I hear where you're coming from. It's just that I think the running backs, there's some pretty good running backs matchups this week. It's hard for me to rank him over a guy like Jaylen Warren, who kind of took over the backfield last week, or Ramondre Stevenson against the Giants, or even a Javonte Williams who's been up, Joe Mixon who's going to be leaned on, a Kyron Williams, who's coming back. Like, it's hard for me to rank him over those guys, but I have him at yeah. So yes, it's hard for me to rank him even over a guy like Brian Robinson, who's been fantastic, and even James Conner. So it's like,
I have him over Kyron, Ramondre, Connor, Javonte.
I'm high on Kyron. I think that Kyron's just going to come back and be Kyron.
I have Kyron Williams at 21. So
okay, it's not as if you're
above consensus actually.
Yeah. So you about where I have him.
Yeah, I agree. I'd play him.
Yeah, so I like Charbonnet this week, but I also don't think that he's a locked in RB1 or 2. I have a question for you, Michael. This is my dynasty team. And a must-win situation, luckily playing a terrible team, but I have a conundrum because I have Zach Charbonnet on my bench. He was my first round pick this year, and I have a pretty stacked running back room. I got Austin Eckler versus Baltimore, Josh Jacobs versus Kansas City, Tony Pollard versus Washington, and Jonathan Taylor versus Tampa Bay. Are you sitting any of those guys for Zach Charbonnet?
No.
Okay. So like mid-range RB2 is where you're going.
Yeah, I have an RB20.
Yeah. Okay. So, man, I know he's gonna outscore one of these guys. I just know it.
We'll see.
The Jets' pass defense has been absolutely spectacular this year. When you combine the talent they have in the back in that secondary that you saw last year, plus something you did not see last year, the ability to get to the quarterback, what you get is the dead last worst matchup for wide receivers in the NFL. 50% under average points against, easily 32nd. They've allowed only 16.7 points per game to the entire wide receiver position. That is nuts, ladies and gentlemen. Just in case you didn't know that. But you have a very, very, very strong pass attack. When you have a pass attack that is that strong, and I just want to, I'm just putting it here. The next best team is minus 29 under average. That's for wide receivers. That's Carolina, and they average 22.2 points per game to the wide receiver. So yeah, like completely dominant, where not even the next team is even close to catching them. But you have a great pass catching player in Tyreek Hill. They call those guys wide receivers last time I checked, just double checking. So in Tyreek Hill, you also got Jalen Waddle, who's been ass this year, if I must say so
And he
myself.
waddled away.
My best take by far, that if anyone listened to me in the offseason, like I might have saved fantasy teams, is do not draft these number 2 wide receivers on their teams that are fake alphas that aren't even alphas on their own teams, high in your drafts. And if you did not draft those players, you're very happy right now. And Jalen Waddle is one of those guys. He's been extremely inconsistent, and he's playing in literally the worst matchup by far. Now, there is something to be said here in the fact that the Jets have made the switch over to Zach Wilson. Now, a lot of people would say
To Tim Boyle.
From Zach Wilson to Tim Boyle. If some people might say, well, you can't get any worse than Zach Wilson. Well, I present to you Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle has never thrown more touchdowns and interceptions at any level in college, and that includes FBS. Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, I know. I don't know how this guy has like a job.
Like Robert Saleh, when he was on the podium, he was like, yeah, we're going to move away from Zach Wilson. He said, yeah, they're different styles of quarterback. I mean, that's basically code for this guy has a water pistol attached to his right hand. Like, I don't know how the Jets are going to move the ball. We'll talk about that in a second. That might be even worse for Jalen Waddle. The fact that the Jets may not even score. So, Michael, how are you feeling about Jalen Waddle? He finished his wide receiver 6 2 weeks ago. Everyone was like, okay, this might be it. This might be it. But has bottomed out many times this year, and has just been a middling wide receiver 30 overall in PPR formats. How are you feeling about Jalen Waddle in this game?
I mean, that was actually 4 weeks ago, his big game against the Patriots, because he had 2 games in a bye week after that. But yeah, Jalen Waddle, like you said, he's a wide receiver 32 and half PPR. I have him right around that range this week. The Jets are ridiculously good defense, secondary, defensive line, the linebackers, like all 3 levels. The only way Jalen Waddle has a big game, and the reason you still do play him if you have him, is because the Jets also play zone defense quite a bit, and you just have to find one defensive breakdown or one hole and a long catch and run, like Khalil Shakir last week, 85-yard catch and run, because he found the hole in his own and then he was gone. So that's what you have to hope happens against the Jets, and Jalen Waddle is someone who certainly has that ability. But yeah, no one should be excited about starting Jalen Waddle this week. It's more of I kind of have to start him because of who he is and his upside.
All right, let's go into the same game then. On the other side, we just mentioned the Tim Boyle situation. Are Breece and Garrett still available to play? Are you still putting them in your starting lineup at this point?
Yeah, I'm giving Breece Hall another shot. For sure.
I think for sure. Like I think that one's a lot easier than the second question.
Yeah, I mean, Breece Hall, 6 targets this past week, 5 for 50, and a touchdown through the air. Again, stymied on the ground, 10 rushes, 23 rushing yards. They got to do something to get that ground game going. That's a big issue with the Jets right now too. Just run up the middle here. Breece Hall, run straight up the middle and see what happens. Every single time it seems like he gets an outside zone run, something good happens, but the Jets just aren't calling those for whatever reason. But yeah, when he's this involved in the passing game, you have to play him. And then Garrett Wilson, of course, he has been shockingly very, very good and very consistent this year with Zach Wilson. And then it all came crumbling down this past week, which is not surprising. for that to happen, but obviously it sucks if you're a fantasy manager. With that being said, he's been very good, playable the entire year, top 30 in points per game. So yeah, I'm giving him another shot against Miami as well and see what he could do with Tim Boyle at QB.
You know what it is? Garrett Wilson is clearly a disappointment because you drafted him so high. But, one of the more consistent players between week 4 and week 10, QB 23, QB 46. All
Wide
right.
receiver.
Wide receiver 23 and then wide receiver 46. The week he was wide receiver 46, he still had 8.4 PPR points. So not exactly, didn't exactly kill your team. Wide receiver 16, 17, 20, 13. So it's like this guy is so consistent. Even before that, his whole year reads as just like mid-range wide receiver 2 every week, with a couple of down games in there at wide receiver 48 and 46 where he didn't kill you. Just that last week he killed you. Last week he absolutely murdered you. In half PPR he had -1 point. So, does it get any better with Tim Boyle? There's a school of thought that says he's going to ultra feed his number one guy. But there's also a school of thought where the entire offense just falls on his face, and Garrett Wilson is one of those guys.
Yeah.
Speaking of
some people are of the opinion that the Jets are turning to Tim Boyle just so they could say like, see what happens when Zach Wilson isn't at quarterback. It can get worse. I hope that's not the case.
That might be the case.
I think the Jets are trying to win games, but I wouldn't be shocked if Trevor Siemian is playing in this game at some point.
Why not go to Siemian is the question.
Yeah.
Like, why Boyle?
I mean, Tim Boyle, I don't know how privy you are to the Tim Boyle and Nathaniel Hackett relationship, Tim, but Nathaniel Hackett was trying to get Tim Boyle to go to Syracuse to play for him when all the way back in Syracuse. So he has a long-lasting relationship with Tim Boyle.
Oh my God, these relationships. The Jets have become fucking the Kardashians. It's ridiculous. Speaking of stumbling over yourself, do you know what happened to me when I was coming here, Michael? Every once in a while you'll get a cobblestone, like around a tree in New York City, or in Queens where we live.
When the tree is growing too large.
No. There's just some cobblestones around, like like just cobblestones. And when I have those, I like to like put my feet in them and like walk across them. And today there was like loose cobblestones because, like you said, the tree's roots had grown a little uncontrolled. And I stepped on one and it was completely loose, and I just went down. I was carrying 2 wine bottles in my hand, and literally the only thing I cared about was the wine bottles not breaking, because I got to bring those to Thanksgiving tomorrow. Look, I got cut.
That's pretty funny.
There. Yeah, I know. I don't know why I'm telling the world this.
Me
But
neither.
with that being said, if you want to check out the rest of this episode, which is our complete rankings and the mailbag, please come over to patreon.com/Broto Fantasy to hear our thoughts about basically every player that we're going to play, because we go over our rankings. With that being said, and just we're going to answer all the mailbag. So come over. It is too late for our mailbag at this point if you join patreon.com. Sorry, but we can get it next week. I promise. Patreon.com/Broto Fantasy to support. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We're thankful for you. Take the time. Tell the people you love that you love them. It might sound cheesy, but you got to embrace the cheese sometimes. Today I had a circle with my high school students, and I was just like, this might sound cheesy. This might feel cheesy, but sometimes you got to embrace the cheese. No one ever got mad at pizza for being too cheesy, right? So if you embrace the cheese and you expect cheesiness and you let the cheesiness win, you'll get something out of it. I don't know where that came from, but
cheese up.
Tell your family you love them. Peace out.
Later.